Hey, this week's episode is the last of 6 re releases, and today's episode is with the phenomenon that is Suzy Ashworth. Over the last, I don't even know how many years, since 2018, Suzy has really shown up. And this is the episode about showing up. And so I think it's really fantastic that you can listen to where she was in 2018 and see where she has come and grown and evolved to in 2024. If I say faith plus action equals miracles, most of you will know who I am talking about. And Suzy is the Times best-selling author of Infinite Receiving. She is a mum of 3 beautiful humans, a 7-figure serial entrepreneur, an author, a keynote speaker, a quantum transformation and embodiment coach. And she really is a believer in miracles, but more than that, she's a friend and she is an absolutely incredible human. Lots of people tell me that I am inspiring, and I'm always shoo-shooing that or pushing it away. And I think that's because in my life I have so many really inspiring friends, and Suzy is one of them. So I really hope that you get a lot from this episode, the one about showing up. And for those of you who are patrons, the patron part is ending. And this is going to be the last Patron part episode, and I will be telling you a little bit about Suzy's journey, where she is now, what she's up to, and you will still be able to get access to all of the back catalogue of the Patron part for those of you that are patrons, and I will be explaining more about what's happening with that going forward. For now, I really hope that you get a lot from this episode as per usual. If you would like to send me a message, let me know, let Suzy know that you enjoyed it. Leave us a review. I would absolutely love that. And I will be back next week. Next week is the launch of the Kismet Codes. So I will be at my launch event all day, and I have recorded a special episode for you, which I really look forward to you hearing. And yeah, then kind of telling you more about all of the newness and the evolution that's happening across the board. For now, enjoy. You are listening to Adulting with Ebonie. Season 7 brings together neurodiversity, human design, and embodiment so that Gen X or millennial misfits and late diagnosed neurospices become empowered, embodied, and fully expressed. This is the show where I actively encourage you to feel your feelings rather than think them. Glow up, not grow up, and become full of yourself. Because who the fuck else should you be full of? Each week, I have real and raw conversations about what it takes to be fully resourced and have happy, healthy, intimate relationships as a dopamine-deficient adult wanting to create a better future by being the change that you want to see in the world. I am your host, Ebonie Allard, aka Ebonie Alchemy, a late diagnosed ADHDer, combined type and Asperger's in case you like specifics, artist, mystic, and self-actualization facilitator. I'm an international award-winning multiple brain integration technique master coach with special interest in embodied human design for neurodivergence. I've been in the personal development, creativity, and entrepreneurship spaces all of my life. And as a 5/2 emotional manifesting generator with a left angle cross of distraction, I am here to help you know what to trust and what to tune out. Each week, I share relatable, practical ways that mean you get to take less responsibility for more reward and safely remove your camouflage for more belonging, acceptance, and fulfillment. Ready? Let's go. Hello. I have been starting all these conversations by asking people what adulting or what being an adult means to you. No biggie.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that I did not feel like an adult until I had kids. And my eldest that I've given birth to is 7, and I also have a 14-year-old stepson. But until that point, when people would ask me how old I was, I was like 19. Oh no, I'm not 19, I'm 29. Oh no, I'm not 19, I'm 32. But in my head, I was always the 19-year-old. And I think that being an adult has meant, when I've kind of brought children into the mix, just being a bit more responsible. I say a bit, I'm still I think people still think that I'm quite irresponsible because I can be very, I think, typical entrepreneurial mindset. So it's like, oh, I'm doing this over here, I'm doing that over there. Oh, yeah, let's go to Ecuador for a year. Okay, yeah, great. So I think that that still feels a bit childish to a lot of people. But by my standards, adulting is being a bit more responsible because I've got other people to look after.
Do you think if you'd never had children that you, like, how would you end up? How would you have related to adulthood then? I mean, it's an impossible question because you are.
Yeah. I think, what I was going to say, I won't censor myself because I absolutely love the life that we, my husband and I, have created. But I think that if we hadn't had kids and, you know, I hadn't met him, I'd just be off in Ibiza all the time. I'd be like Ibiza, Thailand, Bali, Australia. I'd just be living it up around the world. So I think that's what I imagine in my head when I'm like, it's 9 o'clock, go to sleep. Feeling like a washerwoman. Yeah.
I love that. I think it's really interesting, this concept of adulting. So I explore it because I'm really exploring this line between wildness and responsibility, right? And you've really eloquently just brought those two themes to life in this conversation. And it's a really interesting thing. And just before we came on air, we were talking about what I call Lady Gaga syndrome, which is where someone, if you saw a normal, in kind of, you know, air quotes, woman walking down the street in a meat dress or some other, you know, a crazy haute couture outfit, you would think she was crazy and kind of section her. But if it's a performance or if it's a celebrity, then it's acceptable and really fine. And I'm really interested, like, where's the line? Like, when does one fall into the other? And I think the same thing is true with that partying and stuff. Like, a lot of people who have had kids, that was a line in the sand for them. But as someone who hasn't had kids, for me, that line was literally hitting a wall, like having a rock bottom and being like, oh, this is not sustainable. I'm going to die. And, you know, then choosing to take responsibility for my life rather than it being like, oh, I have someone else to be responsible. Now I will be responsible.
Yeah. I really get that. And what's interesting hearing that is that in reality, I have evolved and there are always different chapters. And you see me farting around on Instagram, bringing back the old school tunes, having a little dance around. And that will always be me. But staying up till 6 o'clock in the morning, getting totally off my head and staying up the next day and seeing that, the idea of doing that now, whether I had kids or not, totally turns me off. Because through the different chapters, I have learned a lot more about how to, without wanting to sound too cliche, be high on life and really get the juiciness and the deliciousness out of living without any additional you know, little pet-me-ups. And, you know, I still drink and, you know, I will still get drunk every now and again, but very rarely, because it impacts the way that I want to be as a human, and not just as a mother, but as a human on a day-to-day basis. And how I want to be as a human is really important to me because it impacts my energy. And I think when you take that back to Lady Gaga syndrome, I think Lady Gaga could have walked down the street as Stephanie, whatever her surname is, in a meat dress before she was famous because of the energy. Like, it's the energy of those people that allow them to step into celebrity and fame and all of that jazz.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. I think that there's something in the people who go on that particular journey, right? And so I know that for me, and I can't talk about anybody else's experience, but I know that for me, when I was partying, when I was exploring, when I was living that life, actually I was seeking connection and seeking belonging, and those two, and freedom. So my three biggest drivers are connection, belonging, and freedom. And having, actually the way that I was doing it was perfect for that time in my life, and I didn't know anymore, and I couldn't see anymore, and there wasn't anything else available to me, but it was a path I was going down. And now I'm still exploring those themes. I enjoy intimacy so much more sober, whereas at that point in my life it was terrifying. Like the idea of actually being seen by somebody sober was too much, because there was things I hadn't processed, things I wasn't willing to look at yet.
Yeah, totally resonates with me. And your 3 values as well. I'm like, are they not everybody's 3 main values? For me, and what is exciting about 2019 and going away and spending a year in Central America and doing that with the family is just the new iteration of what fun and freedom looks like as somebody who is nearly 40.
It's really interesting. I had no friends my age until now. Like, so growing up, everyone was either kind of 5 years older or 5 years younger for some unknown reason. And now, so age is so irrelevant to me this time. And when I look at, like, I genuinely can't tell anymore. When I look at people, I just have no idea. And it's, playing with the idea of space and time, and again, like the energy of like where someone's at is so much more important. Like, so I tend to read people on their energetic age rather than their physical, body age.
How old am I energetically?
Nowhere near 40. 19, clearly 19.
Always.
I feel like I have days where I flip between 7 and 70.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of inner child and crone in me, and not a huge amount in between, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting, I think, about the crone as well, because it's my tendency to view, even that word feels quite negative to me. I'm like old hag, but I think the true essence of it is wise woman. And yeah, I jest about being nearly 40, but the reality is that every decade has got better. And I think that, again, when I'm protecting my energy and I feel like I'm showing up in the world in the way that I want to, or at least getting closer to showing up in the world the way that I want to every day, the idea of getting closer to the crone or stepping into that archetype more frequently doesn't feel scary at all. It feels quite exciting and liberating.
So true. I mean, for me too, I used to really dislike the word, and now I feel it's interesting. I feel like, I can't be there yet, even if I feel like it, because I haven't gone through mother. I can't possibly be at crone yet. And it's like, there's all these rules. Like, where do these rules and stories come from?
But I think you don't need to have given birth to go through mother. And we don't know each other hugely well, but I would say that the work that you do in terms of your coaching and the way that you support your clients, that is very much part of the mother. That's part of what we have to do for the people that we support. So the vagina bit is kind of irrelevant, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree, and there's still a part of me personally from a very kind of quite a raw and vulnerable place. It's like, it is something I'd really love to do. I really want to experience pregnancy and birth, and who knows whether or not that will happen, and being a mother. But yes, the work that I do in the world is very much the place that I've taken to doing that, and it's no surprise that, or coincidence, that this show is about adulting, and that I really help people access their own internal father and their own internal mother and be that for themselves. It's something I feel really passionate about, actually, parenting in whatever guise and whatever way that looks like. Yeah. So what else have you done in this, like, so your transition and the iterations of yourselves and the different chapters and going to Ecuador? It feels to me like that's all in pursuit of showing up as the person that you really want to be in the world. when did that journey start? Or how did you, has this always been something you wanted or your focus was on like how you show up in the world?
I think that this journey started when my foster parents passed away. First my mother at 19 and then my foster father at 23, but particularly when my mother went, that was when I think 6 months later I went to Ibiza and then went travelling for 4 years. And at the time it was really about escaping where I had been brought up, because I had left school with just my GCSEs, and I'd worked in every pizza restaurant in Canterbury, and I thought, I'm going to end up a manager. Like, that was my goal at one point, to be the manager of Pizza Hut in Canterbury. And then my mum passed away and I was like, what actual fuck, like, no. And so I ran away to Ibiza and spent time in Amsterdam, and those times were quite hedonistic, obviously. And I think that I was doing my grieving during that period, but I also met some incredibly special people who I am still friends with to this day, who really inspired me. They were on the start of their journey to stepping into who they wanted to be, but they felt so far ahead of me. And so being in their presence, seeing them creating and designing their life and manifesting and all of that stuff, it felt, it is magic, but it really felt magical to observe. And it was like, how are you doing that? And the people that they were being, so their kindness and their generosity, and then seeing that mirrored back in all of their relationships, it was really alluring. And I don't think there was a defining moment, but it was just, I want some of that.
I love that didn't threaten you either. So I feel like there might be people listening who, when they look on Instagram or they look on Facebook or they look out in the world or they go to a personal development event and they see the success of the people who are in the limelight or who are sharing their stories, it can feel like, oh, that's so far from where I am, I can't show up like that. Part of the reason why I try and show like all 360 degrees of the reality of behind the scenes is because it didn't just happen like that, right? There was a journey to go on, and I love that the people that you saw around you inspired you rather than threatened you or made you feel like that's not possible for me.
Yeah, I think like my understanding of this now is just that we are only ever shown reflections of ourselves. And so if you're seeing somebody who is living an abundant life and appears to have just opportunities falling at their feet, you're seeing that as an example of where you can take things if you want to. And whilst you're never going to replicate exactly what you're seeing, it's always going to be your own version, but it should, I hate that word should, but it's a signpost to what is possible rather than what is impossible. But that signpost is it's an invitation to step into something, to expand into that greater vision that you have for yourself. And I was fortunate that by default I was inspired rather than wanting to retreat, but I didn't understand that it was a signpost at the time. It just was. But now when I see people who are, impacting millions of people around the world, or earning vast amounts of money, or traveling and, just living a life, I'm like, oh, I'm being shown that as an example. Great. Brilliant. Bring it on.
Oh, I love that, because I still flip back and forward, right? This has been my story my whole life, really. And I noticed that it really is a story. On the one hand, I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I'm going to go in that direction. How cool that this person is even in my reality. Yeah. You're awesome. And like step towards. And then my challenge has always been the other little voice that comes out and goes, yeah, but it's not available for you. And I have no shame in sharing that that's still something that I allow to be part of my reality, right? It's not, if I knew how to completely eradicate it, I probably would, but I know that there's also a part of me that likes that I'm grounded, that likes that things, you know, that I'm relatable, you know, all of those things. And so it's a really interesting line to be in that place. It's like, on the one hand, I really do want to impact millions. I really do want to have a life that is full of ease and grace and wonder and magic. And at the same time, it's very important to me that I'm relatable and that it feels real.
I love the way that story is literally playing out. Like, if I live a life of wonderment and magic and impacting millions, I stop being relatable. I mean, I'm like, what you mean, like Oprah? Like, Oprah stopped being relatable when she's doing her thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is those stories, and they're so believable, aren't they?
Yeah, and I really acknowledge that it's also a story, right? Because if I actually look back on my life, like in 2011, between 2009 2011, I was 5 figures in debt. I was living out my car. I was really struggling. It took me quite a long time, really, to get back into a place where I was making money. I was actually really scared of money because I'd associated it with so many negative situations and feelings. And when I look at my life now and the revenue and like where I'm at and the house I live in and the reality that I've got, it's like you know, it's so far, really. It's so cool what's happened. But it didn't just magically happen. You know, it's a combination both of intention and changing the stories and choosing how I show up and following the breadcrumbs and being open to magic and kind of all of those things.
Yeah. And the reality is also, which is certainly a fact, the fact that you do have the business that you have and are making the money that you are making, to your previous chapters, some of the people that were in your previous chapters, you're already unrelatable. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be making the impact that you're making right now.
Yeah. So and I guess that other thing of like, it is actually none of our business what other people think of us, you know, and I spend a lot of time talking about that because it's so true, but also because I genuinely need reminding of it.
Yeah.
Right?
exactly and I'm the same, you know. Everything, particularly recently, everything is going through the filter of, would you be saying this if you were really living your limitless life? Like, does this feel limitless? And how many times am I like, no, that's clearly a limit. You're clearly limiting yourself right now. That happens to me frequently. You know, I make no bones about the fact that I am on the journey. I think probably the biggest difference between me now and 10 years ago is that there's more surrender to the path and more allowing. I'm allowing a lot more, but there's just so much more there. There's so much more to let go of and release, emotionally, practically, physically. But I'm game for it. I'm not beating myself up that I'm not there yet, because I don't believe there is it there. But the awareness and being able to catch the fact that it's a story, catch the fact that I'm limiting myself, and why am I limiting myself? That's ridiculous. Gives me more wiggle room to say yes to things in the past I would have been scared to say yes to, and that feels really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I think that your energy around it is exactly what we've been talking about, right? So no, I can't talk for anyone else's reality again, but hearing you talk and the energy that it comes with is never from a place of, I want to be bigger and better than anyone else. It's got nothing to do with anyone else. It's such a place of like, of wanting to expand into all of who you are and enjoying the journey and the process of that. And energetically, that it feels really, really clean. Whereas sometimes when you meet people, it's really pushy. It's like, am I not there yet? Come on. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, we've all got egos, haven't we? And, you know, especially in the world that we're in, it's really difficult to like not be like, how many hearts is that? How many likes is that? How many people have engaged? You know, that is all from an ego space. But I think that aside, because we're all human, but the intention behind the intention that my vision comes with is just from a place of wanting to die feeling like I've done a good job. You know, I've done a good job of life. I've died happy.
Yeah, me too. I want to die knowing that I lived to from a place of fullness.
Yeah.
There weren't any corners that I didn't go into. You know, I feel like sometimes with life, we're in this incredible mansion with the most wonderful gardens. And I feel like sometimes I spent quite a lot of my life hanging out in the kitchen because it's the best bit of party. But because I was there, I wasn't like exploring the attics or the lake or the like other bits. And now in my life, I feel like I'm exploring and often feel like I'm running around this incredible mansion going, but look at this thing. And there's just so much to see. And it's
that really resonates. And it also feels a bit scary because I know that there are doors that I'm still not ready to open. I know that there are like, you know, there are signs that I've like read and I'm like, oh, that feels exciting, but no, I'm not quite ready yet. And yeah, that will be the real measure of success. How many doors was I prepared to open?
Yeah, I really resonate with that. And actually it links into, for me, another kind of thing I live by, which is community over competition. And for someone who quite honestly spent the first half of my life feeling like success was having done it myself with no help. Am I too? Nowadays it's around like, how many people can I get involved, and did we do it together, and was it fun, right? And having that community, sometimes, you know, if there's one of you looking at a door going, I don't know what's on the other side, versus like a gang of you together going, okay, on the count of 3, let's all step through it. That's a different quality of energy, and to me really affects how I show up, knowing that the universe has got my back, my friends have got my back, my community's got my back. It's a very different way of showing up for me.
Yeah, totally. And I think even just hearing you say that, it shines lights on the places where I'm still a little bit like, me, mine, control. It's like, still work to do, but that's okay. I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah, you and me both. Suzy, we whizzed through our time together. Thank you for coming. If people want to find out more about you, come and engage in your community, where's the best place for them to go? Yeah,
I'm hanging out lots on Instagram at the moment, so come and say hello. It's Suzy, SUZY_Ashworth.
Fab. We'll make sure we stick links in the show notes. Do you want to end on a little confession with me? Do an I'm an adult but?
Yeah. Are you going to go first?
I am, while you think. Yeah. I guess I'm a good friend like that. I am an adult, but I still really enjoy running around life like it's a house party.
Oh, love that. It was just really fun. I'm like, I am an adult, but I can still act like a knob sometimes. That was the one that was just on the tip of my tongue.
And I love your honesty. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with me.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been fun. I really enjoyed it.
This has been Adulting with Ebonie. I've been Ebonie. You've been great. Thank you so much for all of your support. Please keep listening, liking, rating and sharing so that more people can enjoy and engage with us. If you want even more of me, and more importantly, even more of you in your world, take the next step. Become a patron, a Maven Haven member, get your free human design chart and report, or your compass, aka the value filter, to begin your glow up. Go to www.ebonieallard.com/welcome for more, and I will see you next time.